for, and then we'll get to the big moment.
Megyn, I want to ask about your look.
My who?
Your look. Your look, Megyn.
Oh, my Luke.
Your look. Did I not say it right?
I don't know. I mean, like, you're way cooler than I am. I don't know what you're talking. My Luke.
Is the most insecure person I have seen in the public eye in a long time. That is why everything had to be perfectly.
Meghan Markle really did expect Harry to be a billionaire when she met him. She was incredibly disappointed to find out he's only worth a couple million, and she's gonna have to actually work and hawk these jams and jellies and dog biscuits to have the lifestyle that she wants.
But this woman is nothing but a publicity whore. It's a term of art. And we broke the news that she had Prince Harry on her vision board when she was younger, and that was her goal. #goal, to marry Prince Harry.
Targeted Prince Harry. She wanted to be a star. She rejected a couple of other British guys who weren't powerful enough. Then she was rejected by a bunch of them. How embarrassing for Prince Harry to have been the one who fell for it. What a dope.
Meghan Markle is at it again. She can't help herself.
Meghan Markle's big comeback was supposed to be unstoppable. After stepping back from royal duties, she had the spotlight, the influence, and a $100 million Netflix deal that promised to reshape her public image. This was her moment, a carefully choreographed chance to rewrite the narrative, to prove to the world that she wasn't just a royal exile, but a powerful brand in her own right. The idea sounded foolproof, a lifestyle series where Meghan could finally show the real her. Not the Duchess battling palace politics, but the down-to-earth woman who could laugh in the kitchen, share relatable tips, and connect with audiences on an intimate level. But the dream turned into a spectacle, and not in the way Meghan hoped. Instead of applause, she was met with ridicule. Instead of admiration, she became the punchline of jokes across the internet. From TikTok memes mocking her pretzel bag relabeling to late-night comedians roasting her pasta recipes, the show didn't just miss the mark, it crashed and burned in real time, leaving audiences cringing rather than inspired. What was pitched as warm and relatable ended up cold, overproduced, and bizarrely detached from reality.
She is a malignant narcissist who cannot get enough of herself while she simultaneously plays the victim. My castle's too small. The queen was mean to me.
And here's the real kicker. The very thing Meghan wanted most, authenticity, connection, credibility, slipped further away with each stage smile and scripted laugh. Even before the critics had their say, viewers sensed something was off. And when the reviews hit, brutal doesn't even begin to cover it. Words like soulless, unwatchable, and self-obsessed filled headlines, cementing her show as one of Netflix's most expensive embarrassments. But this story is bigger than just a TV flop. Behind the glossy kitchens and curated aprons lies a shocking truth about Netflix's gamble, Meghan's identity crisis, and the way celebrity reinvention can backfire in today's media world. Because what Meghan presented wasn't a comeback, it was a cultural disaster that exposed cracks not only in her brand, but in her ability to reinvent herself at all. So how did a duchess with every resource at her disposal, wealth, fame, influence, manage to fumble one of the most golden opportunities in Hollywood? And why does this Netflix deal still haunt her today? Stick with me, because what you're about to hear will leave you questioning not just the show, but Meghan's entire brand strategy. From the very beginning, Meghan Markle's vision was marketed as refreshing and relatable. Viewers were promised something that felt intimate, the kind of unscripted authenticity that could make even a duchess seem like a best friend. The trailers teased soft lighting, cozy kitchens, and wholesome conversations. The message was clear: this wasn't palace intrigue or tabloid gossip. This was Meghan, the everyday woman. But once the episodes aired, the illusion cracked almost instantly. Nothing felt casual. Every frame screamed curation. Her kitchen looked less like a lived-in home and more like a showroom out of a lifestyle magazine. Viewers picked up on the small details. The aprons that seemed cycled out every few minutes as though they were part of a wardrobe change. The way her laughter felt perfectly timed to land on cue. The scripted dialogue that gave conversations a rehearsed quality. Instead of watching Meghan open up, people felt like they were watching an actress perform a role called the relatable duchess. Even her cooking, the heart of the show, came across as artificial. What could have been a warm, cozy moment of sharing recipes with friends felt staged and hollow. The food itself was criticized for looking stiff and overstyled, plated not for enjoyment but for photography. It wasn't a family meal. It wasn't comfort food. It was another performance where the audience could practically see the production crew just outside the frame.
Did I do something?
No, stop. By the way, I love your Luke.
Sorry, what's that?
Your Luke. You look amazing. Your Luke.
My Luke. My Luke. My look. She likes my Luke.
Anywho,
This disconnect between what was promised and what was delivered hit viewers hard. They didn't want to see a duchess in a designer kitchen trying to convince the world she understood struggle while serving pasta from a $50 olive oil bottle. They wanted to see her raw, real, and unfiltered. But what they got was the opposite. Polished, cold, and strangely distant. And that's where the backlash really began. Because when people feel they're being sold an image rather than shown a person, they don't just lose interest, they get angry. Meghan's grand illusion wasn't just ineffective, it set the stage for a cultural takedown, the kind that no amount of branding could protect her from. The internet doesn't wait to judge. And when Meghan's series dropped, the reaction was swift and merciless. Within hours of the first episode's airing, social media had turned her carefully crafted vision into a global comedy routine. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, every corner of the internet lit up with jokes, memes, and parodies. The so-called relatable duchess wasn't inspiring audiences. She was being roasted by them. Clips of Meghan performing the simplest tasks became viral punchlines. One scene in particular, where she poured pretzels from one bag into another and then relabeled them, was clipped, captioned, and shared thousands of times. TikTok creators mocked it as luxury homemaking cosplay, and users flooded the comments with sarcastic lines like, "Thanks, Meghan, I never knew how to move snacks from one bag to another." Another scene where she made plain pasta while smiling at the camera was ridiculed for being painfully staged. The memes practically wrote themselves, $100 million to watch Meghan boil water. Critics didn't hold back either. Rotten Tomatoes gave the show a punishingly low score. The Guardian dismissed it as soulless branding, while The Telegraph called it insane, narcissistic, and totally unwatchable. These weren't lukewarm reviews, they were public takedowns that cut straight through the glossy marketing. Even entertainment journalists, often polite when covering celebrity projects, leaned in on the ridicule. They didn't just critique the show, they openly mocked it.
For a grand plan, it turns out that Meghan Markle has no influence. She is actually failing at becoming an influencer, which is something that, up until her, I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know it was possible to fail at doing that, because literally anyone can do it.
But what really stung Meghan's brand was how the parodies became more authentic than the actual show. YouTube skits, TikTok impressions, even late-night comedy sketches captured the awkwardness better than the episodes themselves. Audiences laughed harder at the spoofs than the real thing, and the satire spread faster than any positive coverage ever could. Meghan's carefully controlled image, polished, curated, perfected, was shattered by ordinary people online who spotted the disconnect and turned it into cultural comedy. What Meghan hoped would be her triumphant reintroduction had instead become an international meme. And the worst part? The laughter wasn't just about the show, it was about her. People weren't mocking a bad recipe or a boring episode. They were mocking Meghan Markle herself, questioning her authenticity, her relatability, and even her intentions. For a brand built on image, this was the kind of humiliation that no PR strategy could erase. Behind the glossy surface of Meghan's Netflix show was a theme that viewers couldn't ignore. Everything was dressed up to appear elevated, expensive, and sophisticated. But it only highlighted how disconnected she was from the audience she was trying to reach.
Put hands on someone that wasn't doing something fast enough for you. And that we wanted to have because it's so authentic to Meghan Markle. She is known as a dictator in heels. Yes, she is a ginormous bully. And when she does that to you, you better jump up and run like a lightning bolt just hit you. And we wanted to show that side of her personality. So that's why we put that in there.
I've always loved taking something pretty ordinary and elevating it.
By elevating it, Meghan Markle means she has to show her wealth at every turn. This is the first of 5 different apron changes because Meghan believes that many aprons shows many wealth. Also, the use of olive oil is another way of elevating herself. Just add some olive oil to everything because it's expensive.
Take her obsession with the idea of elevating ordinary things. In one episode, Megyn casually explained how a drizzle of olive oil could transform a simple dish, as if this was a groundbreaking revelation. But the way she framed it, with imported premium olive oil poured delicately in a kitchen that looked like it had never seen a messy pan, came across as absurd. To ordinary viewers, it wasn't relatable. It was tone deaf. Then there were the endless aprons. Commentators pointed out that Megyn seemed to switch aprons multiple times throughout the shoot, almost as though the aprons were costume changes. Instead of looking like a practical home cook, she looked like a performer modeling lifestyle aesthetics. Critics dubbed it apron cosplay, mocking the idea that changing outfits somehow made her appear more authentic. If anything, it emphasized the production's obsession with optics over substance. And then came the infamous jam jars, marmalades, and dog biscuits. Megyn's attempt to brand artisanal products as part of her lifestyle empire backfired spectacularly. Social media dubbed them the jam nobody asked for, with users joking that Megyn was trying to be a mix of Gwyneth Paltrow and Martha Stewart, but landing somewhere between parody and self-satire. Late-night hosts had a field day mocking her Montecito marmalade as a symbol of her tone-deaf approach to relatability. The kitchens themselves were another point of ridicule. Instead of warm, messy, lived-in spaces, they looked like set pieces straight out of a luxury lifestyle magazine. Spotless countertops, carefully arranged decor, and sterile perfection that screamed staged. Viewers didn't believe for a second that Megyn actually lived, cooked, or laughed in those kitchens outside of filming. This obsession with presentation revealed the biggest flaw of all. Megyn wasn't showing audiences who she was. She was showing them what she thought they wanted to see. Wealth disguised as simplicity, luxury dressed up as relatability, and in trying to project authenticity, she only proved how far removed she really was.
I'm excited because one of my closest friends is coming over to help me cook today. Shit, what's her name? Line?
My name is Megyn Sussex now. Call me Meghan Markle one more time, Mindy fucking Kaling. I want my home to feel welcoming. Do you feel welcome? Does my soundstage welcome you? Mindy and I are such great friends, like besties. Like, I love her. Like, she doesn't know my name, but we're best.
This candle just reminds me so much of growing up in LA. You know what? This knife reminds me of growing up in LA. Kosher salt brings me back to my days in LA. I'm an LA native. I am a Los Angelite. This salt reminds me of growing up in LA. This carbon monoxide detector just really takes me back to my time in LA where I grew up. Because I grew up in LA. I grew up in LA.
By the end of these episodes, one thing became painfully clear. Megyn didn't just miss the mark on relatability, she magnified the gap between her and the audience she was desperate to win over. And once that perception set in, no amount of branding could save her. When word first spread that Meghan Markle's series was getting a second season, the internet erupted in disbelief. After all the backlash, the parodies, and the brutal reviews, why on earth would Netflix double down? To the public, it looked like the streaming giant was blindly throwing more money into a fire. But behind the scenes, the truth was far less flattering and far more calculated. Executives at Netflix weren't banking on Megyn's vision. They weren't inspired by her relatable duchess persona, nor were they convinced the show had a chance at long-term success. What they were really doing was hedging their bets. You see, Netflix had already filmed 2 seasons back-to-back before the first one ever aired. It wasn't a renewal, it was insurance. In today's streaming wars, risk management is everything. Megyn's brand was polarizing long before cameras rolled. To some, she was a modern feminist icon. To others, she was the embodiment of Hollywood opportunism. Executives knew this, and they also knew that buzz, even negative buzz, has value. So, by filming 2 seasons at once, they minimized the risk. If the first season flopped, the second would already be ready to drop, ensuring more headlines, more hate-watching, and more attention. And make no mistake, hate-watching has become its own kind of currency. Every sarcastic tweet still counts as engagement. Every meme fuels conversation. Every parody clip shared on TikTok keeps the Netflix brand in people's feeds. Success in streaming isn't always about love. It's about being talked about. And Megyn guaranteed chatter. But this secret plan came with a hidden consequence. By preparing for failure, Netflix essentially admitted they didn't believe in Megyn's ability to carry the show on merit alone. They weren't betting on her star power. They were betting on controversy, mockery, and public fascination with a celebrity who couldn't seem to escape criticism. What should have been Megyn's triumphant rebrand was, in reality, Netflix using her polarizing image as a marketing strategy. To viewers, it looked like loyalty. To insiders, it was cold calculation. And for Megyn, it was devastating. Because instead of proving herself as a credible Hollywood tastemaker, she had become Netflix's most expensive gamble. A spectacle they were willing to exploit, whether it succeeded or failed. If Megyn's team hoped the controversy would at least translate into views, reality hit hard. The numbers weren't just bad, they were catastrophic. Despite the buzz, the memes, and the endless media coverage, the show failed to rank in Netflix's top 300 most watched titles between January and June. That's right, not top 10, not top 50, not even top 100. It landed at a dismal 383rd place.
Getting absolutely nothing that's authentic out of this. I mean, I think watching it was quite disappointing because you don't actually get that look into her life that you think you're going to get or you thought you were going to get when the series first said that it was going to launch. I mean, it's really this sort of charade of her playing a part in a home that's not her own, with people that she doesn't quite know.
Maureen Callahan and I discovered firsthand, Glenn, when we did our parody of Megyn's stupid Netflix show, trying to make herself into the next Martha Stewart, and we realized her one-pot pasta is just a blatant ripoff of Martha Stewart's one-pot pasta, which turned out to be like one of her most famous recipes.
For a platform that had shelled out $100 million to secure Megyn and Harry's content, this was a nightmare. Industry analysts revealed that her 8-part series had drawn just 5.3 million views in 6 months. To put that in perspective, Netflix shows with modest budgets often rack up tens of millions of views within weeks. Megyn's series wasn't just underperforming, it was practically invisible compared to the competition. The gap between hype and reality was staggering. Megyn had been marketed as a global cultural force, someone whose name alone could command viewership. Yet the numbers showed audiences weren't buying what she was selling. For Netflix, it raised uncomfortable questions. Was this really worth the investment, or had they bought into a mirage? Critics seized on the failure. Headlines branded it the worst deal in Netflix history. And financial analysts mocked the decision as an example of Hollywood's obsession with celebrity over substance. Even fans who once supported Megyn struggled to defend the flop. Numbers don't lie, and the numbers painted a picture of total rejection. And here's the kicker. The low viewership didn't just mean financial loss. It meant reputational damage. Netflix had gambled on Megyn as a cultural trendsetter, only to discover that audiences weren't interested in her curated brand. Instead of cementing her place in Hollywood, the flop reinforced the narrative that Megyn couldn't connect with people outside of palace drama. For Megyn, this was more than just bad ratings. It was proof that the carefully built brand she and Harry had been trying to cultivate was collapsing under its own weight. And the fallout was only just beginning. At the heart of Meghan Markle's Netflix disaster lies a deeper problem, one that no PR campaign, no glossy kitchen set, and no staged pasta dinner can fix. It's the problem of identity. For years, Megyn has been trying to shape how the world sees her. But the harder she pushes, the less believable each version becomes. Think about the roles she's tried to play. First, the actress chasing stardom in Hollywood. Then, the royal duchess breaking tradition. Then, the rebel who walked away from the palace in search of freedom. Soon after, the humanitarian on a mission to change the world. And now, the relatable lifestyle guru teaching us about jam jars and pretzels. On paper, it sounds versatile, even admirable, but to audiences, it feels like cosplay. Every reinvention comes across as a costume she puts on for the cameras, a persona carefully curated for maximum impact, but lacking the one thing that matters most: authenticity. The humanitarian photo ops look staged. The relatable mom moments feel rehearsed. The taste-making homemaker routine falls flat because people don't believe she actually lives that way. And that's the fatal flaw. Reinvention only works if people can latch onto at least one version of you and believe it's real. With Megyn, the more roles she takes on, the more disconnected she seems. Instead of inspiring admiration, it fuels suspicion. Who is the real Megyn? Is there a real Megyn? Critics call it an identity crisis. Supporters call it reinvention. But whichever way you spin it, the Netflix flop exposed the cracks. If she couldn't convince audiences of her authenticity when she had full creative control, unlimited resources, and the biggest stage in streaming, when will she ever? What's worse, this crisis doesn't just affect her show. It seeps into every project tied to her name. From brand deals to charity work, from her Hollywood ventures to her attempts at thought leadership, everything gets filtered through the same lens. Is this genuine, or is it just another performance? The answer, increasingly, has been the latter. And once that perception takes hold, it's almost impossible to shake. Megyn's biggest challenge isn't her critics, or even the tabloid press. It's that audiences no longer believe in any of the roles she's trying to play. As if the backlash and identity crisis weren't enough, Megyn's Netflix saga took another shocking turn when fans began pointing out eerie similarities between With Love, Megyn, and an earlier show by none other than Pamela Anderson. That's right, Pamela Anderson, the former Baywatch star, had launched her own cooking show years before, titled Cooking with Love. At first, the comparison seemed like internet nitpicking, but then side-by-side screenshots started circulating, and the resemblance was hard to ignore. The fonts used in the title cards, nearly identical. The soft-focused kitchen shots with rustic wooden tables and delicately plated meals, strikingly similar. Even the slogans echoed one another. Pamela's line, "I want to take the ordinary to another level," was almost mirrored in Megyn's tagline about elevating the common.
Having your friends round and being nice and providing them with things that they would like. So it's a very silly, childish way to be, I think.
Well, it is. And the fact that she couldn't even come up with an original title. I mean, come on. Cooking with Love compared to With Love Megyn. Like, it's just so obvious. As you say, Angela.
Pamela Anderson had to address Meghan Markle copying her cooking show, while Markle's Netflix deal might actually still happen.
The whispers quickly turned into full-blown accusations of plagiarism. Commentators mocked the show as Cooking with Love Montecito Edition, suggesting Megyn hadn't created a vision of her own, but had borrowed heavily from someone else's. Fans of Pamela Anderson even called it a shameless copy, pointing out that Megyn's entire branding effort looked like a watered-down remake of a concept Pamela had already pulled off. For Megyn, the timing couldn't have been worse. She was already being accused of being inauthentic, and now she was facing claims that her original series wasn't original at all. The irony was painful. In her attempt to prove herself as a tastemaker, she was being painted as uncreative, unoriginal, and derivative. Pamela Anderson, for her part, didn't go on a public attack, but the silence spoke volumes. Entertainment outlets had a field day with the story, running headlines like Megyn's Netflix flop isn't even hers to begin with, and Pamela did it first. Side-by-side trailers began circulating widely on YouTube, with viewers pointing out frame-by-frame similarities. And here's the brutal truth. Whether the similarities were intentional or coincidental didn't even matter anymore. Once the plagiarism whispers gained traction, the narrative was locked in. Megyn wasn't just failing at being authentic, she was being accused of imitating others. For a brand already crumbling under the weight of ridicule, this was another blow that stripped away any lingering sense of originality. The relatable Duchess wasn't relatable, the homemaker wasn't believable, and now the creator wasn't even original. With every accusation, Megyn's carefully curated image slid further into parody. By the time the dust settled, Meghan Markle's Netflix dream had transformed into something she never anticipated. Not a cultural triumph, but a cultural punchline. What was supposed to reintroduce her as a global tastemaker ended up cementing her as one of the most mocked celebrities of the streaming era. Social media didn't just critique the show, it immortalized its failures. Memes of Megyn rebagging pretzels became shorthand for Hollywood excess. Jokes about her apron changes and elevating olive oil became part of internet slang. Even casual viewers who never watched the show knew the references because the parodies spread faster than the actual episodes. In today's world, being a meme can keep a celebrity relevant, but for Megyn, the meme wasn't funny in the way she hoped. It was humiliating. Late-night hosts piled on, with comedians comparing her Montecito marmalade empire to a high school craft fair. YouTubers released parody skits that got more views than her actual Netflix episodes. Even lifestyle bloggers, who normally might have been allies, wrote scathing takedowns about how her show turned homemaking into performance art gone wrong. The humiliation wasn't confined to the screen. It seeped into her broader brand. Every new project she launched was met with skepticism. Every new announcement was shadowed by the memory of her Netflix flop. People no longer saw Megyn as a bold trailblazer escaping palace walls. They saw her as a duchess cosplaying relatability and failing miserably at it. And that's the cruel twist. In the modern celebrity machine, where authenticity is currency, Megyn's attempt to reinvent herself didn't just backfire, it destroyed the very trust she needed. Once audiences decided she was a punchline, it didn't matter how expensive her kitchen sets were or how carefully curated her brand strategy looked. The perception was set. Meghan Markle's Netflix saga wasn't just a bad show. It was a case study in how quickly image, money, and influence can collapse when authenticity is missing. She had everything working in her favor: the fame of royalty, the platform of Netflix, the budget of a Hollywood blockbuster. And yet, with all those advantages, the series still flopped spectacularly. Why? Because people don't want to be sold a fantasy anymore. They don't want staged laughs, over-styled kitchens, or a duchess pretending she understands struggle. They want something raw, believable, and human. Megyn promised that, but what she delivered was a performance so polished, it stripped away any chance of connection. The numbers proved it, the critics confirmed it, and the internet sealed it with ridicule. Megyn wasn't rebranding herself. She was exposing the cracks in her brand for the world to see. Every bag of relabeled pretzels, every forced laugh, every elevated recipe became another reminder that her vision wasn't resonating. And maybe that's the ultimate lesson here. Reinvention only works if people believe at least one version of you is real. With Megyn, audiences were left wondering if any of it was real at all. And until she can answer that question, not with staged performances, but with genuine moments, every comeback attempt will risk becoming another flop. So now the question is yours. Was Meghan Markle's Netflix series simply a misstep, or was it the moment her brand's downfall became irreversible? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you couldn't stop laughing at the pretzel memes, and subscribe for more deep dives into the sagas shaking pop culture today.